So I just want to, provide a routine for the discussion so far about climate, which essentially is also a function of the atmosphere. And so what affects it and how the atmosphere also affects the earth and our conditions, living conditions on the earth. So from the point of view of the earth, or especially specifically human beings affecting the nature of the atmosphere, that engendered this title, this topic that a lot of you must all be familiar with, the Anthropocene, which basically expresses, the human influence on the atmosphere and how our lifestyle and our cultural development, technology, and all of that is influencing the atmosphere. And that's how Professor Ramanathan presented this talk about mass. It's not simply mitigation adaptation, but essentially also societal transformation, because a big part of it is that. And why all of that is so is on account of this small demonstration here, which thanks to Professor Schellen Huber, we have. It's about a big part of human influence on the atmosphere is attributed to the Industrial Revolution and when it began. So if you look at Britain, you see the color change and how what began in Britain began to spread over the continent, went to the United States, and gradually came to Australia, South Africa, China, India, and all. So all of this is the impact of the industrial chain, and it's so presented because it was all based on carbon. The energy source for the industrial transformation or revolution was the use of carbon and the throwing of carbon, as it were, into the atmosphere. And that endangered, if you want, the health of the atmosphere, which in turn also affects conditions of life on the earth. So that's what we have now, and these are the group. We acknowledge the credit of all of this. So what had happened with the map we just saw was that there's a passage from the Holocene, which was a pretty period of pretty moderate and stable conditions, to the end of it when you see everything shooting up. There was a shooting up of the temperature rise, carbon dioxide rise, methane in the atmosphere rise, and nitrous oxide all rising. And the consequence is what you see under the Anthropocene. Temperature 1.5 is now actually talked about as 2.5 already. So it's gone beyond 1.5. There's a lot of carbon in the atmosphere and a lot of other gases, methane and all. So that is the condition that has been presented. And this is the initiative about changing anything or healing anything. Is about changing or healing this condition. So this is also represents exactly what the carbon story is and the need for its transition. So before the rectangle at the extreme right of it, you see our energy sources has been essentially based on coal and gas. Okay, coal, oil used to be oil in the between the 1980s and 2000. Then coal took over, then gas, and now we use a lot of gas. Coal also comes in second, and oil underline it. And the hope for transition is to reverse the system and use more solar energy, wind, and all to reduce the component of the carbon-producing elements in the atmosphere. So this project about the need for transition is what we call healing the atmosphere now. And this has become also the business of the Academies, which has gathered all of you, which has gathered all of you here to talk about this. And it's done so with a series of events. On the Academy of Social Science and Academy of Sciences have produced a lot of, with view to, dealing with the condition of the atmosphere on the different titles and different headings that the academies have proposed. They've sought to basically deal with this situation and see, help, about healing the atmosphere. The glaciers affected the nature of water, and until Pope Francis was allowed out to sea, invited the whole world at COP21 to seriously look at this. At COP21, the discussion was trying to peg the increasing temperatures to 1.5. Now, with all the country determined protocols and everything, we've not quite done too well with that. We're in the 2.5s now. But what the Pope had said is still relevant. I urgently appeal then for a new dialogue about how we shape the future of our planet. So we need a conversation which includes everyone, since the environmental challenge is everyone. So the conversation here is science and traditional knowledge or indigenous knowledge. That's what we gathered here to do. And after the Pope's exhortation, the academies went on with their project. Now certain expressions begin to show up: sustainability, and now resilience, which has been presented to us by Professor Ramanathan and Professor Roscoe. Into the resilience period, the resilience of people, ecosystems on the climate stress. So we create the stress in the climate, and the climate also affects our way of living on the earth. So it's a kind of a mutual type of thing. Our change, so the societal transformation invariably then would also improve upon the condition of the climate and atmosphere, which is a thing forgotten. So the last event then, Science for Sustainability and Well-being in the Anthropocene Opportunities, challenges us with all about this, with the latest element introduced there, which is artificial intelligence, and all of that can be used. So Professor Ramanathan is taking you through this, the story of the climate crisis and resilience, and Professor Roscoe presented the different periods of the celebration of this. And it is that the Academy last year in May celebrated this event, Climate Crisis, Climate Resilience, and did not take it to a level of government. We took it to a level of actionable people, so mayors, governors, climate activists and societies and all of that. And at the end of it, decided to take this message or this event around. So the result of which is what Professor Roscoe presented. It's been held in California, February, right after the fires in January. Then went to Boston at the coastal threat. Then from Boston came to Nairobi about the challenges of the Horn of Africa. And from Nairobi went to Austria. And Austria, because East and West Europe kind of, all of them meeting, that's the borderline between the East and the West. And from there, went to Brazil. And the Amazon, a big thing about, we knew that the COP was coming up. And so this was to prepare a little bit for the COP and relate the climate disasters and everything to children and the future, intergenerational solidarity, and all of that. After that, is going to go hopefully to Dakar. From Dakar, go to Australia and the Pacific Islands. And from there, go to India, Japan, and possibly China. So it's an event that is going out to sensitize the whole world about this. What the climate is greatly influenced by our own conduct, and it's good to recognize that. So finally, Pope Leo is inaugurated an initiative for Pope Francis at Castel Gandolfo called the Borgo Laudato Si, which again was Pope Francis' way of giving crucial attention to the integral ecology component of all of this. So he inaugurated that garden, the Borgo Laudato Si, to give higher education in the matter to people and invite groups like the global climate movement and all of that to do events there. And so with that, with exhortation again, like Pope Francis, we must shift from simply collecting data to caring, and from environmental discourses to an ecological conversion. If you read Loud Out to Sea, this is the central invitation also of Pope Francis that transform both personal and communal lifestyles. So this is why we gathered here for all of this. And so by way of concluding, draw a few points from this. First of the words of Pope Francis that the crisis is almost always the result of self-forget. We forget the relationship between us and our environment and creation, and it's good to go back to it. Secondly, as a data-rich scientific problem, we may not fail to see the human faces behind these data and figures. Right now, however, the challenge has also become the credibility of science itself, because several groups and several societies are even beginning to dismiss scientific evidence that underline all of. So we're facing the science which kind of motivates us towards wanting to do something is now also being challenged. And so double jeopardy of some sort. And we're trying to see what we, so that's the event which has brought us all here together. And so what each of us can do is to unite and stand in solidarity to replan our journey, to set ourselves new rules and to discover new forms of commitment, such as the MAST, which has been presented to us this morning here, in the hope of shaping a new vision for the future, social transformation, because all of this is possible. So thank you for your attention. Thank you again for coming late.